Militarily Speaking, Season 2, Episode 4. Bruce McClary with National Foundation for Credit Counseling.
This episode, we talk with Bruce McClary with National Foundation for Credit Counseling.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean and Jodi Vickery, who by choice, I don't have another co-host from which I can choose. I am
Lucky day.
I'm the military retail exec for Armed Forces Bank, and Jodi is wonderfully indoctrinated into the digital world. She's our chief digital officer, Bruce. I mean, that alone is gold. So again, do you have any other segue you want to do?
I have nothing, Tom. I have nothing.
You want to talk baseball? No?
I do not actually want to talk baseball. So I'm going to introduce Bruce, though.
All right.
So welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning all about our guest, Bruce McClary. We wanted to tell you about him.
By the way, Bruce is a repeat.
I was getting ready to say that, and you interrupted me.
Which I never do, but he's our first repeat, right?
I know. So, yeah. Yay, Bruce. Bruce is a repeat guest on Militarily Speaking. He was brave enough to enter the den again, and it's been almost 1 year to the date that he joined us the first time to talk about his organization. This time around, we're going to hear about some survey results off of a survey related to active duty families and veterans. So we're excited to talk about a different topic today. But just briefly for our audience, I do want to tell them a little bit about Bruce. He's the Senior Vice President of Media Relations and Membership for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, or NFCC. As the lead spokesperson, Bruce provides communication support for the nation's largest and longest-serving network of nonprofit credit counseling organizations. He also manages activities focused on industry collaboration and membership growth. With decades of experience in the financial services sector, Bruce often draws upon his direct experience as a debt collector, lender, and NFCC certified credit counselor when speaking to journalists and managing financial wellness research. During his career, he's provided one-on-one financial counseling to thousands of consumers, trained financial educators, and reached millions more through print and broadcast media. He's been featured as a financial expert for the nation's top news outlets, including USA Today, CNBC, NBC News, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, MarketWatch, Fox Business, and hundreds of local media outlets from coast to coast. So he's a touch more famous than you are, Tom, is what that means.
Jury's still out on that. I think it's close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, okay, in your mind. But welcome, Bruce. It is an honor to have you on our show again, and I want to thank you for being with us today.
Tom and Jodi, thank you so much for having me back. I'm really excited to learn that I am the first repeat guest.
We were making history with you.
You should get like a special T-shirt, I think, for that. Maybe.
Hashtag second appearance. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm honored to be back, and it's great. It seems we were just talking about this earlier, but it seems crazy how quickly time has passed since I was last on the program.
Time is definitely flying. At work, at home, everywhere.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Yes. Yes. It's fall, y'all. That's the sign in my front yard says.
Is that what it says?
It does, actually.
Like, do you put it like a yard sign?
It's a sign up against my front door.
Oh.
It says it's fall. Welcome, it's fall, y'all.
What do you do? When do you take it down?
When the Christmas snowman goes up.
And then there's just a snowman.
It's about 6 feet tall, but yes. With several Christmas trees and lights. So, yes.
For more information about
my holiday decorating, find me on Pinterest. Actually, don't find me on Pinterest.
It sounds pretty festive, though. That's very nice.
Yeah, I'm often accused of being super festive. Back to the subject at hand, though. Today, I'm actually excited about today. It's going to be great as we dive into some survey results from the 2025 NFCC Financial Comprehensive Literacy Survey conducted by the Harris Poll and sponsored by Wells Fargo. We get to hear from Bruce about the realities of financial readiness in military life.
It ties in nicely with who we are as a bank, but also knowing that there's so many things that are happening out there in the world that are affecting our military community, that it's nice to get some great resources, great intelligence, and great experience as a guest today, Bruce. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And again, there's so much information to cover in that survey. And it'll be interesting, too, to because we have last year's episode as a comparison to talk about the direction that things are going right now with military families and with veterans, and talking about how things have changed, whether it's positive or negative, and what some of the emerging challenges are. So I'm really excited to be talking about this in a context that can help people identify some solutions and ways to address these issues.
We all know, and for several years now, Jodi, we've been partnered with these wonderful guests over the years to talk about financial education and the unique challenges that military families face. A lot of financial pressures, and they often put them at greater risk than the general population, which we'll talk about with Bruce. But while many service members and spouses exhibit strong financial knowledge, the reality is the military life, which we all know, whether it's PCSing or the relocations, the cost, spousal unemployment, which I think, Bruce, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, which is 23 to 27% at any given moment, deployments, just the fragility of the financial landscape that presents a crucial opportunity for banks, relief organizations, policymakers to tailor outreach and support efforts to address the needs. And I think later in the conversation, we're going to talk about a collaborative team approach to having different organizations, different facets of the military support community come together, because we are in for one common cause. We always talk about our guests too, that the thousands, 45,000 nonprofits that are always looking to help military families or veterans or dependents or anybody that's associated with the military, that in the same realm, financial education, I think we all rally around that to try to put our hands out to figure out how to help too. Jodi?
Yeah, I want to start with a hot topic.
Ooh.
We need like a hot topic sound effect.
And not the
Dale.
retailer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, different. Definitely different than Hot Topic, the retailer. That store
Are they still
scares
open,
me.
by the way?
They are, and it's a little scary.
That means you've been there recently.
I have gone with my children or my husband.
Do you remember what you bought?
They buy pops there. The little,
Oh,
yeah. So anyway, that is not the hot topic that I want to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but all coming out of the survey. But I'd love to start with the hot topic of cryptocurrency and what the survey would tell us about that and its use. I know, Tom, you fancy yourself sometimes a expert on things like this too.
kind of. But, you know,
We're gonna
and by
let
the way,
Bruce talk
Bruce,
about
at the AMBA conference, we actually had an insertion the first day at like 7:30 in the morning about the Genius Act and cryptocurrency and the things that are affecting military. And it was just perfect timing. And who knows, 6 months from now, there might be a different flavor of the week. But crypto is getting a lot of attention, both in Washington and scams, unfortunately, but things that are out there in that space. So I think Jodi's spot on about hot topic, that it is on.
Yeah, so cue the sound effect, and we'll talk a little bit about cryptocurrency as a hot topic. And the attention it's getting, you know, this could lead to some positive things in terms of setting up guardrails that protect consumers, helping consumers make better informed decisions. All of that is good, right? If it helps people protect their finances. But the survey itself identified that cryptocurrency remains a significant factor in the financial lives of military families. In fact, the survey found that 27% of active duty service members and 28% of spouses report using cryptocurrency.
Wow.
And when you compare that to the rate of cryptocurrency use among the general civilian population, it's more than double the rate.
I would have thought just the opposite. I would have.
Yeah, it definitely raises a lot of questions. And I would have assumed the same thing without having gone into this exercise previously and repeated it this year in the survey. I would have thought that the cryptocurrency utilization would be much lower among active duty service members and spouses, but apparently that's not the case. The reverse is true. And I think, you know, this high rate of adoption, some people might think, well, it's just a matter of people being forward thinking and technology forward and, you know, looking to the future and embracing these future fintech type products. But, you know, from my perspective, it's a troubling trend, given that cryptocurrency is very volatile and there are very few consumer protections in place at the moment. Again, there's a tension in that area that might lead to some positive changes. So it is it is certainly risky. And I don't think anyone would argue with that. It is risky, no matter how informed you are. Investing in cryptocurrency is risky. But what this underscores is the need for a tailored financial education program or programs that help serve members and help them understand that there are risks and the risks are serious and that you need to make an informed decision before you dip your toe into that pool so that you can safeguard your financial stability. So that's the key there. And I think and that just drills down to one of the bigger concerns about where people get information about cryptocurrency before they invest in cryptocurrency, before they play in that area. Because, you're using your hard-earned money and you're taking it and you're investing in a financial product. So before you throw your money in there, you need to understand clearly any of the risks and advantages and how to use that situation to your advantage to come out financially ahead rather than behind.
Right.
And we'll get into some of the other details of the survey. But I think the bigger concern for me when it comes to looking at this high rate of cryptocurrency use among military families is that many military families right now, according to our survey, are struggling financially. And they're having to cut costs and implement creative strategies for savings. And, cutting back and trimming up your budget and not having a lot of savings isn't a situation you want to be in when you start putting your money into something as volatile as cryptocurrency and something that is as significant a risk. So that's an area of concern. And there are other studies out there I would want to point out too, because this is important. There are other studies not related to our survey that indicate where people are getting information about cryptocurrency before they're going in and using it. And from last year, there was a very widely circulated survey that indicated that the top category is from social media influencers.
I thought so.
I was actually going to guess TikTok.
I know those 30-second vignettes, and I hate to say get-rich-quick schemes or knee-jerk to the financial challenges, like you said, Bruce, about that. If everything else stays constant and inflation's impacting it and you're worried about, unplanned expenses, that you try to find a way out. And if
it's like a new age lottery ticket, just put it in crypto and it'll grow just like I'm going to win the Mega Millions.
Yeah. And I think the danger about, turning to social media, I mean, again, we can, pick apart social media as much as we want and talk about how it lacks details and some of the information is not thoroughly vetted. But a lot of these influencers that are, they call themselves finfluencers that are on social media, they're paid influencers and they're paid by these cryptocurrency companies to get out there and try to get more people into their product. So under those circumstances, especially when it's not clearly disclosed that they are paid influencers, people are taking their advice as being balanced, and when in fact it's not. It's tilted towards getting people to buy these products and to use these services. And so that's very risky in and of itself. And the second most popular area of information about cryptocurrency is friends and family. So there are a lot of recommendations from friends and family. Hey, check this cool cryptocurrency product out. I'm using it. So because I'm using it and I'm your cousin, it's pretty safe. And people are jumping in.
Trust, unconditional trust. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So those are areas of concern right there. But the social media thing is especially concerning because there are trusted sources of information about cryptocurrency that service members and their spouses could be utilizing. And many of those sources of information are within the military infrastructure. DoD FinRed has great information on their website. You just do a quick search on cryptocurrency, and they've got the basics from starting up and just understanding the basics of cryptocurrency to other more detailed guidance. And then another trusted source outside of the military infrastructure, you could go to the Federal Trade Commission, you could go to FINRA. All of these are trusted sources. So there's information out there. I just think it's awareness of where to get that information and the importance of getting that information before investing in or putting all your hard-earned money into cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I think a lot of people turn to social media, not just on crypto, but on lots of topics. Yeah. We get packages delivered to my house frequently where I'm like, where did this come from? Why did we buy this? Well, I saw it on TikTok. Super.
And impulse buys. Yeah.
Yes, that's outstanding.
Yeah. So don't make cryptocurrency an impulse buy, especially if you're struggling financially.
That's right.
Yeah, but especially if you're having financial struggles or, your limited discretionary income. There's not a lot to play with there, let alone to put at risk.
Yes.
Hey, Bruce, let's go to, I feel like we're chipping away at some of these chunkful.
I don't think chunkful's a word.
I'm going to.
I'll Google it. You go ahead and ask Bruce your question, and I'm going to Google chunkful. I'm going to figure out how to spell it, and then I'm going to Google it.
Well.
If not, we're going to submit it to Webster, and we're going to make sure they qualify that.
So
no results found for chunkful.
That's great.
Dictionary.com.
All right, so we're going to talk to Bruce. Let's talk chunk full of
Okay, I'm going to incorporate that word into my next answer. So.
All right, please.
It's going to be like you've got your life. You got to be the secret word. You have to know when it's coming up.
It's an Easter egg.
All right, this is great. All right, so the next key finding from the survey, right? You coined it communication gap that is a fragile financial foundation. So there's we could peel that back a little bit, Bruce, from the conflict zone or the desire for communication tools. But let's talk about that next chunkful activity.
Yeah, so
Bruce is trying to come up. How do I put this in a sentence?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to do that. But yeah, communication, I mean, relationships are a big part of military life in your household, right? It's, and communication is a big part of maintaining a healthy relationship with your spouse or significant other. And when you live under the same roof and you pool incomes and resources, then personal finances are likely to be a part of the subject matter that's discussed in the household. So, this can often be a contentious issue, and that certainly is the case among the general population. I mean, it often leads to conflict and arguments, and sometimes in a less than constructive way. But one of the things that I think is incredibly positive, in every military household ought to be proud of this result, is that only 1% of active duty service members and their spouses report never discussing finances. So that means 99% of military households are talking about personal finances, either some or a lot, as opposed to a much smaller percentage in the general population. I mean, 19% of the general population are saying that they're avoiding discussions of personal finance altogether. So I'd rather be part of the 99% in the military households that discuss personal finances. But even though those discussions are taking place, sometimes they do lead to some contentious exchanges. So they do come with some challenges. And 52% of married service members report that managing money with their spouse often leads to conflict. So I
buy that.
Yeah,
does that pass the fact checking?
That passes the military spouse seal of approval. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, and that's, when you're talking about personal finances, it should be no surprise that, oftentimes some of these discussions are going to lead to a little bit of conflict. So this all boils down to the so what aspect of this. And, there's a portion of these discussions that are not very productive. And I guess that's what we really need to discuss here, because even though communication is happening, in some cases, it doesn't really lead to a result that's favorable for the household or either partner in the relationship. So that leads to what we heard through the survey, that a majority of the military households are asking for. And what they're asking for is a specific checklist of how to talk to a spouse or partner about money. And this feedback comes from over 60% of the military families that responded to the survey. So there is an opportunity there. And it's not that people aren't doing anything to provide that guidance. I mean, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't make that the takeaway from this, because there are resources out there on base and off base to help couples communicate about money. But it might be that more is needed, and maybe more clarity about where to find those resources when couples are seeking help. And reaching out to get help with that issue is also something that might need to be addressed. In other words, making it a comfortable step for people to take, so that they're avoiding any shame or public admission of some of the difficulties they're having communicating in their household. And it's a very courageous step to reach out for help, especially when you're trying to get help with debt. But when communication is also a factor, there can be added shame to that issue that might be keeping people from reaching out. So it's not just about producing this kind of material that helps military families. It's also making it accessible in every possible way so that people feel comfortable taking that step.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the conflict can certainly come from communication and communication styles being different, and people's level of engagement in the family finances. If one person's doing all of the work and they see all of the mess every time they balance the checkbook, and the other one's sort of, moving through life like a bobber in a lake.
Yeah.
They've got a different level of stress, which sort of leads to that next question that we've got for you.
But wait a minute, tangentially speaking, aren't checklists though the key to survival in the military too. I mean, operationally, I think there's a mindset, even we as bankers do checklists, whether it's an operations checklist or a sales checklist or just even a checklist as you're rolling out a project, that there's some sort of comfort in that or a self-confidence that if it's written down, then it probably is real. And if not that you want to script a conversation with a spouse or at the household at a dinner table, but I don't know, Bruce, what that checklist actually looks like, but what a great takeaway that would be to help our military families structurally communicate more openly and that they're all on the same page when it's written in a checklist format. So I get that.
Yeah, and that's a great observation because you're absolutely right. I mean, there are very few aspects of military life that don't involve some kind of structure or checklist. And you can create a checklist without turning it into some cookie cutter exercise.
Yeah, checking the box.
Yeah. So you can allow for the uniqueness of each individual household in each situation and still have a checklist that is a guideline toward entering into the conversation and getting done what you need to get done. There's one other key factor here that is really important that I did leave out earlier, but I think it's worth acknowledging because it did come through in the survey. And this is another area where couples can work on things with help. But 25% of spouses indicated that they regularly hide how much debt they have from their partner. And, that again, that's a direct measure of a lack of trust in financial matters. And, not disclosing some of these things openly can make things worse when they do come to light. And, it's important to be open and honest in your communication and also be communicating in an environment that's not tied to fear of judgment or conflict, which just puts up barriers in communication.
By the way, do you think most of that 25% is maybe one of the spouses getting their own credit card, right, in their name?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, and it could be that, and coupled with the fact that the purchases they're making on that credit card are not something that is being discussed in the broader sense when talking about personal finances in the household. And if you're racking up debt on your own and it's exceeding your own ability to manage it outside of the necessary expenses of the household, then that does become a very serious problem.
It bleeds over into the household income.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that could certainly lead to some very distinct feelings.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I was headed with the point I was before Tom interrupted me again.
Professionally, though, respectfully.
Before he interrupted me again. No, but, so whatever the reason, I think the spouse that is probably managing the finances and is in the guts of those day to day, balancing the checkbook. Do I have enough money for this? Do I have enough money to pay groceries, pay the bills? And if somebody's not as deeply involved, their stress level is going to be different. And then the urgency with which they feel like they might need to communicate is going to be different. And so you've got two people coming to the table from really different places. And so, I'd love for you to expand on the anxiety piece of this and how in that kind of a situation or in any other, money's sometimes an uncomfortable thing for individuals or families to talk about. How do you help them through just sort of the natural anxiety that can come very normally with that?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up this point. In my rule has been the less money you have, the more anxiety is involved in those discussions.
Yeah, definitely.
And the tighter the budget has to be. And if you have one spouse who's managing the budget and has basically taken that off to the side and is doing that on their own, and that isn't coupled with some kind of open communication with the other non-participating spouse, then absolutely there's going to be anxiety. But I always advise people, don't separate yourself completely from the process of budgeting. You should always be informed and involved in the budgeting process, no matter how much you dislike it, because there are all kinds of circumstances where that might take place where you are suddenly put in a position where you have to control the budget. And if you've delegated that to the other spouse, and all of a sudden now it's your thing, there could be some terrible things that play out in the process of trying to regain balance and figure out the process that you've just had to take over. So always be a part of the process, even if you're not directly hands-on granularly. And that gives you an opportunity to know exactly what's going on with decisions that are directly impacting what you spend and what you save, and you're finding your goals and your priorities for the household in terms of your finances. And it also gives you an opportunity to have input in those decisions rather than sitting on the sidelines. Because if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're detached from that process, I mean, this sounds kind of harsh, but how much of a right do you have to take issue with the things that are decided when you've basically extracted yourself from the decision-making process in the first place?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, everyone, we've got something special for our military listeners today.
Absolutely. If you're in the market for a new home, you've got to check out Armed Forces Bank's VA loans. They're designed specifically for you with competitive rates, no PMI, and no down payment required. And as an approved VA lender with VA certified underwriters, all decisioning is done in-house, which creates a more streamlined experience for veterans.
At Armed Forces Bank, about 75% of our team is affiliated with the military, so we know what it's like to serve. We've been supporting military families for over 100 years, so we've got your back every step of the way.
Whether you're active duty, a veteran, or a reservist, we are here to make your home buying process smooth and stress-free. And with our mortgage service guarantee, we'll close your loan on time or pay you $1,000.
So if you're ready to move into your dream home, head over to afbank.com or visit a branch near you. Armed Forces Bank, serving those who serve.
Equal housing lender, member FDIC, subject to credit approval. VA funding fee may apply. VA loan qualification guidelines apply. Third-party closing costs apply. Owner-occupied property only. You're a statistics guy, right, Bruce? You like numbers?
I like numbers and letters. Yeah.
That's chunkful. All right, so this stood out to me. 30% of active duty service members and 17% of spouses have used a payday or cash advance loan within the past 3 months.
Yes.
That's alarming. I don't know how that compares to prior years or survey results from it feels like it's the same year after year.
Well, and sadly, it kind of is. There is a high rate of utilization of payday loans among military households. And that is, it's very unfortunate. This is something that, we've tried to address year over year, calling attention to what we're seeing in our survey. There are some other surveys that tend to show lower percentages, but our survey samples a statistically significant portion of the military population. So we feel confident in the results that we're getting. But, a significant portion of both active duty service members and spouses have turned to payday lenders during the past year. That is a bit troubling. And I think why they're turning to these payday lenders is even a bigger issue of concern for me, because I am a big fan of the military relief organizations and all the good that they do in the military community, and the resources that they offer in many cases could prevent people from going to high cost, high interest payday lenders and to be able to receive the help they need. And so the question I always ask is not why is the percentage so high, but why are these people turning to payday lenders in the first place? And a lot of them are turning to payday lenders because they're referred by a family member or friend. So it's the same thing, the same issue here as it is with cryptocurrency. 46% of active duty service members and 51% of spouses said that it's the family or friend recommendation that led them to the payday lender in the first place before even considering or knowing about the military relief organizations. And then there's another issue that came forward in the survey that is sort of an underlying factor here as to why people aren't turning to the military relief organizations first. 21% of service members reported that they didn't want the military to know that they needed to borrow money. And it was a fear of disclosing that information to their command and the consequences that would have. So they decided instead that in their case, it might be better for them to turn to a payday lender. And the last item, which is really concerning for me, but I think is probably one of the most addressable items on this list, is that 16% of active duty service members and 20% of spouses said that they weren't even aware that military relief and military aid organizations were even an option when they were facing a financial challenge or a financial hardship.
Yeah, I think until we, like to your point, I think until we get to the root cause of it, then you've seen legislation to try and make payday loan companies off limits. Mm-hmm. Obviously, payday loan companies have a profit interest at heart, so they're going to find creative ways circumvent that or to get to where they're able to help these families that still have a need for help. And I think it's because the legislation doesn't address why they need that bridge in the first place in a meaningful way. So kind of to that end, and we're skipping around a little bit here, but for families, how do you see, or how would you encourage a family to think about financial success? So we're talking about some of the things that might be indicators that they're struggling. What might you paint on the other side of that for them as the picture of what success or
as they improve their financial situation?
A more optimistic outlook for what that might look like.
Yeah, so there's two different ways to look at this. And I think I'll start with just basing the answer on the survey itself. And based on the survey, financial success for service members really goes beyond the issue of achieving a high income. It's defined more specifically by a feeling of security and resilience. So it's that financial stability, that financial security. That is the definition based on what we've seen through the survey. That is the definition of financial success. And of course, from my perspective, the key indicator of the success is being able to have that cushion of savings, that financial safety net. And that, and one of the good things about the survey is the survey confirms that military families not only recognize that as a priority, but they are prioritizing that. Military families do much better when it comes to prioritizing savings than the general population. I mean, way better. It's not even a contest. So kudos to, everybody top to bottom in the military for raising awareness of the importance of savings and to making sure that people know exactly the tools and the processes that are available to help prioritize that. So very, very good when it comes to savings. But I think having that financial safety net is a critical indicator of achieving financial success. But ultimately, financial success means financial situation that positively impacts other areas of life. And we all know that there is a direct link between mental well-being and financial stability and the level of financial stress that you're experiencing. So mental, physical well-being, personal relationships, all of these can be tied to financial stability and how much financial stress is or isn't in your life and where you are there. So that's very important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Somebody said that they knew that they were in a better place financially when they didn't think about what day payday was for them. Like they didn't have to think about paydays this Thursday because I know that I get a little relief and I can catch back up on some things. It happens and payday's the thing. But if your sun doesn't rise and set on the fact that a certain day is payday, that was their sign that they had things a little bit better in order.
Yeah. It can be really stressful when you have to, when you're cutting it so close with your finances that every minute, every day counts and everything has to hit exactly. And I guess going back to the survey, just to kind of close out the loop on this, we did hear that 24% of active duty service members and 21% of their spouses reported that their financial situation negatively impacted their mental health, which is, certainly attention getting and brings more opportunities to specifically address that in helping improve the quality of life for service members and their spouses.
Bruce, we started this talking about cryptocurrency and sort of those non-traditional financial services and the fintechs that are out there creating new ideas and seeing if they stick and seeing if they become a mainstay or part of the life of people. But, buy now, pay later, BNPL, that felt faddish a few years ago. I think it probably even came out before the cryptocurrency craze that's and Bitcoin. But BNPL, let's talk about that subject, Bruce, in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, it's become mainstream. Buy now, pay later is officially mainstream. There is, it's not this emerging thing that might be a fad or might not be a fad. And the data backs that up. 40% of active duty service members and 28% of the spouses have used buy now, pay later services. And that's compared to 27% of the general population. So 40% of active duty service members versus 27% of the general population. So there is certainly a higher rate of utilization among active duty military. And, a lot of it, is probably tied to the convenience of the product. Hey, this is something that I can use and I can make a purchase and I can pay in installments. And it does offer quick access to, obtaining a good or service and then, paying out in installments over time. But my primary concern is while, these buy now, pay later programs do offer quick access to cash to enable purchases, they can trap military families in a cycle of high cost debt that erodes long-term financial stability. And, some people may look at that and say, well, there are a lot of buy now, pay later options that are interest free. And, it's like free money, right? I just, sign up and pay in installments. But there are so many hidden fees and hidden costs here and penalties that are associated with not exactly sticking to the payment plan, et cetera. One misstep and you could be paying a ton of money in fees, and it could totally derail your budget if you were carefully planning on hitting the mark exactly based on the interest-free calculation. So you just have to be very careful using buy now, pay later products. And again, you're balancing the convenience with the cost, but you're also balancing the convenience with a lack of certain benefits and protections that consumers might enjoy from other more traditional lines of credit. And not all buy now, pay later programs will report the activity to your credit report. So you're not benefiting in that way. Your credit score doesn't improve at all based on the payment activity. So if you have a thin file credit report and you're thinking these are going to help you build a credit score, you might be wrong about that. And then again, consumer protections are sometimes lacking with these buy now, pay later services. If you have a defective product and you went and paid for it through one of these buy now, pay later services, if it breaks while you're in the middle of your payment plan and you want to just send it back in, there've been all kinds of problems with consumers not getting full refunds, losing money, and having a difficult time with the financial impact of that. And there are, few protections in that area have been few and far between. So I would just advise people to be very careful about buy now, pay later. Actually be careful from a budgeting standpoint if the reason you're turning to buy now, pay later is because you've maxed out your existing credit cards.
I was saying, I go back to the days of like zero interest till 2042 or something. That it is a marketing, it feels scamish. Mm-hmm. But it does, I mean, when it's so easy, it's too easy and you want to buy something. I mean, I see these BNPL ads when you're buying an airline ticket or something, or when it used to be just primarily at the registers if it were a big ticket item like a TV or something or a computer. But it just feels like, if you go to Taco Bell, they're going to give you a buy now, pay later option on that.
Buy now, pay later chili cheese burrito.
Even if it's $1
right.
meal.
And that is not wildly unrealistic. I mean, there have been stories about people using buy now, pay later for things that
everyday household items, right?
Yeah, household items, things you buy at the grocery store. It's just crazy to think about that. I mean, pretty soon, like you said, Taco Bell or the Coke machine down the hall is going to be taking buy now, pay later payment.
Yeah, and you can see how it easily infringes on a family's budget, though. I mean, if you do that multiple times,
eventually you have to catch up.
How do you keep track of how many buy now, pay later payments are coming out of the next paycheck? And so your paycheck hits, and then you wake up and you look to see what your balance is. Well, half of your check's gone with buy now, pay later payments. I mean,
yeah, exactly. There's no limit, and because it doesn't show up on the credit report, lenders can't see that you're over indebted to these buy now, pay later programs either. So there's danger on both sides.
Yeah, it feels very just like another flavor of a payday loan, honestly. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, we're going to put a bow around this. We kind of want to end this with all the survey results and the issues that are facing our military families. But that call to action is sort of how we want to wrap this up too, about what recommendations you might have for support organizations, whether it is the relief societies, whether it's banks, credit unions, financial services providers, financial educators, NFCC, you name it. What are some of your recommendations, maybe that if we had to create our own little checklist right now that you wanted to put in front of our audience, what would the checklist be for how these organizations can rally around and support and work together towards a common cause?
Yeah, I really appreciate this question because I fully believe that collaboration is the key, and everybody who has an interest in the financial well-being of all Americans, especially military, active duty, and veterans, this is really, it's not a personal issue, but it's a community-wide responsibility. And so I think we all can play a role. And it's really important to take a collaborative approach that's informed and bring organizations together to work on addressing some of these specific issues that have come forward in this survey. I mean, I think we're in a good place in a lot of areas. We talked about savings being a strong area of awareness and action among military families. But then we have issues like cryptocurrency and payday loans and buy now, pay later. that are continuing problems and in some cases growing problems that need to be addressed. And the problem may not necessarily always be the product itself, but it's about whether or not we're doing everything we can to ensure that active duty military and their spouses are making informed decisions about these products and services before utilizing them. And so, that kind of marketing and awareness and education is an opportunity for all of us. And I think, through organizations like AMBA and the Military Family Financial Readiness Coalition and others, we can tackle these issues one by one. And I think we have the numbers and the strength to be able to do it effectively.
Yeah, I think the one last thing I do want to leave our audience with, so if they're not part of a support organization, but they're maybe a military family and they're listening to this and they're like, I need some help, I'm ready to do that, I know we can direct them to your website, which is www.nfcc.org. How might they connect with one of your certified financial counselors? What's the best way for them to tap into the resources that your organization specifically provides?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to do it. The best way is what you just described, going to nfcc.org. That is our main website. In the top right corner, you can see a little button that says, get help, get connected to a counselor. And people can connect right away online and they can get the help they need from any of our nonprofit credit and housing counseling agencies that are serving all 50 states and U.S. territories. So that's one way. And there is a toll-free number, 1-800-388-2227, 1-800-388-2227. And that is a way that you can connect by phone to those same agencies and talk to an NFCC certified counselor. And you can talk to counselors about putting together a budget, about tackling unmanageable debt problems, or about hopefully achieving your dream of moving from renting to owning a home. So there's all kinds of different ways these nonprofit organizations can help you achieve your financial goals and specifically help you overcome obstacles that are making repayment or debt management, repayment of debt challenging for you.
Yep. No, I think that's great. And I love that you give them options to reach out electronically if that's what they're comfortable with, or if they really want to just talk to another human, they've got that option as well.
And important point to mention here too, even if you reach out initially electronically, there is always going to be some human touch point with the counselor and as a part of the process, because we don't want it to be cold and impersonal and completely electronic. So it's important to have that kind of touch base over the phone as part of that process of getting advice and guidance from an NFCC certified counselor. So there is no agency that's part of our network that will do it exclusively electronically. You're always going to be in touch with a real human being, not some form on a website and not a bot. So it's a little bit reassuring for people to know that is, even the online process has that human element.
Yep. No, very good. Very good.
By the way, Bruce, a year ago when we had this conversation, do you remember what the national credit card debt was?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I do not.
So it was 1.14 trillion. And I'm going to leave our audience in a lurch, right? What do you think it is today? Because I have no idea. Do you think it's improved, or do you think we've gone back?
Well, we have data that shows it's gone up.
Yeah.
So I can't pin exactly the figure, but it has gone up. Right. And we have data also that shows it's becoming increasingly unmanageable for a large number of Americans as well. So we have something called the financial forecast that we conduct, and we use an economist and we use some of the Fed data combined with some of the data from our counseling sessions. And the financial stress forecast has been on an upward trajectory steadily for the past few years. And that is also an indicator of, how difficult it is for American households to manage the amount of debt that they have and what they're accumulating. So it's going up. If I were pinned down to an exact figure, I probably wouldn't be able to give it to you on the spot. But it is more than that 1.14
trillion.
1.4. Yeah.
Bruce, you're supposed to be a little bit more positive during these conversations.
Well, but think about it. All the prices of goods has been elevated. So they're putting it on cards to get by.
And you wonder, I know the unemployment numbers just came out, but at some point, it feels like we've been riding high so long, but at some point, the consumer is going to be stretched. And I think it, just as with anything, though, goes through cycles.
It does. It does go through cycles. But I think there's, the positive part of this. You were talking about the negatives. I mean, the positive part is the NFCC is there as a resource for people who are struggling in these areas. So it's, we're nonprofit. The initial counseling session is at no cost. and you get the benefit of advice from a financial professional who can help point you in the right direction and help you make informed decisions about dealing with some of those debt challenges. So we're glad we're here in times like this. We are certainly not glad that there are times like this, but at least, when these challenging times happen, we're a resource for people, and we encourage people to reach out.
Bruce, in a perfect world, you'd be unemployed.
Well, I used to say that all the time when I started as a counselor.
Yeah. Put you out of business, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're there. You said you're glad you're there. We're glad you're there. We're glad you're here today.
Because we're going to play a game.
We are. We're gonna end. Well, it might be fun. It's fun for us. Nobody else probably thinks it's fun.
Bruce is like, Bruce sent me notes. We have to play the military man.
Bruce knows how this goes.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do so well the last time.
Well, I got to tell you, you're probably not going to do very good today either, because Tom picked the questions last time.
Yeah, but he can Google this.
Okay.
We can't see him on camera anymore. He's Googling right now. So go ahead.
Yeah. So if you remember, Bruce, so our last military minute had something to do with our guest. We were talking about Veterans Business Outreach Centers, or VBOCs. And the question was, what year did the Veteran Business Outreach Center get created? If you're in our audience and you answered 1999, then watch for your name to get dropped as the lucky winner that's been selected to win $50 for you and $50 to a charity of your choice. And so, Bruce, I think you might actually know this week's Military Minute, but you can't answer because this one's going to be teed up for our audience. This is about your alma mater, Bruce. Alma mater?
Wait,
alma mater?
Dude, he can answer this part. Where'd you go to school, Bruce?
ODU.
Right.
Translated Old Dominion University for those that didn't go to ODU.
ODU.
What was the original name of Old Dominion University? Don't answer, Bruce, but do you know?
I do.
I think that might be the first time anybody's ever known the answer to our question.
I know.
Okay, cool. So
I
Bruce,
did tee it up for him.
Bruce knows a little bit about his alma mater. Alma mater. That's a weird word to say.
What is
but
your
if
motto?
you are in our audience and you know the answer to what was the original name of Old Dominion University, when this podcast drops, make sure you drop that in the comments, and you could be selected to win $50 for you and $50 for a charity of your choice. How's that?
That sounds great.
That's scrumptious.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
But I would challenge any former ODU grad to know this, because it should be common knowledge on campus.
Okay. Next time we have an ODU guest, we're going to ask that same question.
Okay.
Go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs. So if you enjoyed today's episode, go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Make sure to rate us or leave us a comment, but don't make your honest comments about Jodi on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcast or Spotify and YouTube. You know, we're on YouTube, right? I mean, you've been on CNN all the way up through the other litany of 9,000 other broadcasts, but it's nice to be on those different platforms out there, right, Jodi?
It is.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It is. And I am familiar with YouTube.
I expect you to be a military influencer saying positive stuff about good financial habits. I want some 30-second vignettes on TikTok from you, Bruce.
On TikTok? Well, you will never find me on TikTok, so I'm sorry. I hate to disappoint you, but maybe YouTube.
All right.
I'll do a YouTube short. If you know what
Fancy.
As always, Bruce, well done.
Yes. Thank you for being repeat guest number one. It's been a pleasure again.
Yep.
Thank you for being on today.
Well, the pleasure is all on this side of the microphone. It was an honor to be back with you, Tom and Jodi, and I would love to come back again to be a three-peat.
A trifecta of pure joy. Yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind. But thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Bruce.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. Bye. Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank-owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as irs.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.